Dr. Burns, like no one's talking to you, man. So I would like to talk to you. We've got several academics on. And if you read Ms. Feldman and Dr. Van Nuys's, you're thinking, are y'all from the same planet, right? You seem to be. So let me just ask some things that Dr. Nuys puts in her testimony and have your response. In 2019, before patents were due to expire, Gilead introduced authorized generic versions of Harvoni that was going to lower out-of-pocket costs by $2,500, but it never made it to several PBMs formulary. And the patients continued to pay top dollar, even though there was a generic that was available. I think I summarized that correct, Dr. Nuys. Now, that would look like something which is an abuse of a PBM, by a PBM. What would you say to that, Dr. Burns?
Well, one has to look at the incentives in Medicare Part D plans. And the incentives there are to get the beneficiary through all of the various coverage phases into the catastrophic phase, where the government picks up almost all of the tab and the health plan pays very little. So it's the health plans who have an incentive for the patients to move through those coverage plans such that their liability is diminished when the patient hits the catastrophic phase. It's not the PBM, it's the health plan that the PBM is an agent for.
So you're saying that the health plan would be instructing the Part D PBM in order to put that formulary so as to move the person into the catastrophic phase most rapidly?
Well, the health plans run the Part D plans. They're not instructing the PBM to run the patient.
So that still sounds like a little bit of a collusion. If you've got an insurance company that owns in whole the PBM company, and they're telling them, listen, we want to offload our responsibility, so stick it to the patient buying the drug to move them into, that's what you're saying, huh?
Not necessarily, because that vertical integration that you've talked about with the health plans owning the PBMs, it's mostly recent. Okay, up until 2018, the only health plan that owned a PBM.
Yeah, but I think what we're describing is still a recent phenomenon, at least until that was capped. Mr. Levitt, you're shaking your head, you're waving your hand, you're like jumping up and down, but be concise.
I thought I was being more subtle than that, but yeah, I mean, the PBMs and the insurance companies are one and the same, and there's no firewall. So United Health owns Optum, Cigna owns Express Scripts, and CVS owns Caremark, and Aetna and SilverScript. So to the extent that was an accurate statement, these health plans, they want the patient to have a higher cost drug to move through the coverage phases to get to the...
So I think what you're saying is that we have to actually broaden our view. The PBM is merely an agent for the insurance company that is willing to foist cost upon both the consumer and upon the federal taxpayer in order to maximize their profit.
That's right, but...
Now, let me stop because I got limited time. Dr. Van Nuys, recent legislation has has changed the dynamic of the Medicare Part D incentive. Theoretically, there's no longer a reward for sticking it to the patient, moving her into the catastrophic. Would you expect that which Dr. Burns is, I think it's fair to say, I don't know if it's minimizing is the right word, but it seems to give less importance to. How do you think this is going to impact it?
I'll start by saying I'm not sure, but I do think that it could alleviate some of the issue. I don't know. We will have to see how it plays out to understand.
And Mr. Burns, Dr. Burns, going back to you, I think you're quoting Weinstein-Schulman's data when you, in your testimony, say that people are inferring that the higher list price, even though net price is minimally rising, that they are inferring that that's related to the fees, the rebates, et cetera. Seems like a pretty good inference to me. And knowing that high list price is what the patient in her deductible is going to pay, they're still extracting more money from the Medicare beneficiary, a lot more money. Your thoughts on that?
Sure. Research, as well as my own study of some of these drugs, shows that the list price goes up because the manufacturers can get away with it.
Now the Schulman article, or articles, and Schulman-Weinstein most recently, shows that the list price grows, 2.7%, whereas list price will grow 5%, and the net price is growing 1.7%. Now, that is not the manufacturer. In fact, there's a depressive effect. Others have noted that this is costing manufacturers a fair amount of money. So I'm not sure, so where would you come from?
Well, the manufacturer is setting that list price, and then the PBMs act as agents on the health plans.
No,
to
that
negotiate
list
down
price
that
is a
list.
negotiation between the rebate and the net price. In fact, I think I know that the manufacturers do not report as a profit the list price, they only report the net price, which tells me that that's all they're counting on. And the rebate, the price between the list and the net, is that which the PBM is demanding for where they put it on a tier, et cetera. Would you dispute that?
Well, the PBM demands that in order to get on the formulary, and then demands a bigger rebate in order to get a more favored position on that formulary. And then the PBM translates or passes along those rebates to the health plan. The issue is what the health plans do with that money, not the PBMs.
I am way over, but I will say that the lack of the opaqueness of it is, I think, what people are concerned about, because we don't know the entirety of that is going back to the payor. It may be going back to the integrated insurance company, but we don't know it's going back to Google, Exxon, Deloitte and Touche, or performance contracting in Louisiana.
To be
what I would say
continued, Senator Cassidy, important point. Senator Menendez is next.